next on News 20 at 5. Shots fired at Strozier leaves one dead.
He refuses to surrender. As a result of this encounter, Mr. May is shot and killed.
Details up next. News 20 at 5 starts right now.
From the highest of 7 hills in Florida's capital city, covering every corner of the Big Bend, this is the award-winning News 20 at 5 Live.
From midnight madness to business as usual, Florida State University continues to recover from tragedy. Welcome to the special edition of News 20 at 5. I'm Donovan Long. Gunshots struck Strozier Library at Florida State University early Thursday morning. FSU alumnus Myron May fired shots with a handgun, wounding 3. Police say at least 30 rounds were exchanged before May was shot dead after refusing to surrender. But even those who weren't pierced with a bullet continued to heal from the emotional wounds of having a gunman on campus. FSU student Devin Ford shared his experience from Strozier.
We all heard the gunshots, and there was so much ambiguity. We didn't know what was going on, who shot what, blah, blah, blah. And then within 5 minutes, one of the officers came over the PA system.
Police responded to the scene as quickly as students fled. Student witnesses say they valued their lives more than their supplies. Some left shoes, book bags, and laptops. Florida State student Paul Warmerins left everything, including his phone. An official escorted him past the yellow tape into Strozier to retrieve his belongings Thursday afternoon. Here's his take on what he saw inside.
Just looks like everybody tried to leave in a rush. There were chairs that were flipped over, chairs that were up on tables, and it just looks chaotic inside.
Classes were canceled Thursday, but as FSU President John Thrasher said earlier, today they're getting back to normal. Classes resumed and Strozier Library reopened this morning. News 20 at 5's very own Brittany Collins has been at FSU the past couple of days gathering details. Today she joins us live in the studio. But Brittany, what can you tell us about the shooting? What's going on?
Well, about 450 to 500 students were studying in the library. And in mere minutes, everything broke out into chaos. Books turned into barriers as Florida State Strozier Library was turned into a crime scene. Witnesses say everything happened so fast. First came gunshots, then text messages spread urging students to take caution.
I just stood there and everyone just started screaming, and all these girls behind me just take off running, including my friends. One of them grabbed me and trying to get me to run, but I kind of just stood there for about like 10 seconds before I was like, okay, this is dangerous, I shouldn't be here anymore. So I turned around and took off sprinting with everyone.
The FSU Police Department say it was fast communication that helped the students. The shooter, identified as alumnus Myron May, was in the building.
He then exits the library where he's confronted by FSU police officers and Tallahassee Police Department police officers. He refuses to surrender. As a result of this encounter, Mr. May is shot and killed by the officers.
Police say they responded to the reports of the gunfire within 3 to 5 minutes. 2 students and 1 employee were wounded with gunshots. Students were visibly shaken Thursday, but their morale has improved as time continues to distance them from the shooting. Witnesses I spoke to said they're just thankful the police responded as fast as they did. FSU Police Chief David Perry says authorities responded to the call at 12:25 a.m., but by 12:27 the gunman was dead. But let's get back to Donovan with details on just who Myron May was.
Brittany, thank you, and our hearts do go out to those families of those who were wounded. Now, May graduated from Florida State in 2005 before receiving his law degree from Texas Tech University. Investigators obtained warrants to search his car and cell phone to review additional evidence. Police also said he had journals and videos that expressed his fears of being targeted. They say he was in a state of crisis. Multiple reports say May reached out to friends to inform them of packages they would receive today. One official says a package was delivered to Texas and is already being investigated by the FBI. We'll continue to update you. Now, we mentioned earlier that May fired shots that wounded 3 people. Multimedia journalist Brianna McGregor went to Tallahassee Memorial Hospital this afternoon for an update on the victims.
Police say May wounded 2 students and 1 employee when he fired shots in Strozer Library. 1 student was treated on the scene and released. The second victim, Nathan Scott, was shot in the leg and is now being treated here at TMH with his family by his side recovering. The third victim is in critical condition. However, TMH can't release any information because of privacy laws.
Well, coming up next on News 20 at 5, we'll tell you why the president is taking action against immigration without the consent of Congress. And the latest on what's happening in Ferguson. Stay tuned. You're watching News 20 at 5. Welcome back to News 20 at 5. I'm Donovan Long. President Obama is going forward and making changes to the immigration system without the consent of Congress. The Obama administration says the president is taking legal authority to help make our immigration system more fair and just. Now, one key element of President Obama's plan is to instruct immigration authorities to target those undocumented immigrants who are dangerous. Now, some congressional members are against him taking action, but Obama had this to say.
To those members of Congress who question my authority to make our immigration system work better, or question the wisdom of me acting where Congress has failed, I have one answer. Pass a bill. I want to work with both parties to pass a more permanent legislative solution.
Negotiations are underway for Officer Darren Wilson to resign. Now, sources say Wilson had reached the final stages of negotiations to resign from the police force. Now, although Wilson feels he did no harm, he says his decision will be beneficial to his community and fellow officers. The resignation talks depend on whether a grand jury returns an indictment against him in the death of Michael Brown. The jury will meet today to deliberate and decide Wilson's indictment. But now, changing gears a little bit, let's decide on what we're going to wear according to this weather.
Well, lately it's been so cold outside, but actually this weekend it's going to get pretty warmer. But on Sunday, there's going to be some weather changes. I'll tell you more after the break.
All that and more coming up next. You're watching News 20 at 5.
And welcome back to News 20 at 5. I'm Brittany Collins with your weekend weather, and that cold weather is finally kind of going towards an end. As you can see, it's already getting sunnier outside, especially now. We are currently sunny with a high of 68 degrees. Not too hot or not too cold, but perfect weather outside there right now. And our sun is expected to set at 5:39 p.m. Now, there won't be any rain today, but the humidity is going up at 44%. And let's take a look at tonight. It's going to be cloudy tonight with a high of 46. Like I said before, the sun is actually setting down a little bit earlier at 5:39 p.m. Humidity at 80%. It's going to get a little bit hotter out there later on this evening, and our winds are coming from the east-northeast at 6 miles per hour. And let's take a look at tomorrow. Sunny, beautiful weather as well as for tomorrow. So you may want to take a little walk in that park. It's probably been a while since you've been outside and really enjoying that nice weather. High of 70, low of 61. The winds are coming from the east at 11 miles per hour. Now let's take a look at those surrounding areas outside of Tallahassee. As you can see in Bainbridge, we're at a high of 72, low of 45. Everywhere else is actually staying in the mid-60s and 70s, so the weather is getting up higher. Albany, high of 66 and low of 43. In Marietta, high of 68, low of 43. And Thomasville, continue all the way down to Crawfordville, is in the mid-high 60s and the low 70s. And for this weekend, as you can see, today on Friday, high of 71 and a low of 60. Beautiful out there, sunny outside. And tomorrow as well, high of 68 and a low of 46. But on Sunday, we're expecting some high thunderstorms. Heavy rain coming out on Sunday, so you may want to grab those umbrellas and those rain boots. That's it for your weather. Stay dry on Sunday, and back to you guys at the desk.
Brittany, thank you. The weather's looking pretty good for those traveling from Tallahassee or surrounding areas to the Classic, Quentin. But I know you have more in sports, so what's going on?
Well, I have some reaction from Florida State sports teams on the tragic events that took place on campus. And the Rattlers had a special visitor, and we'll talk more about that in sports.
Well, stay tuned. You're watching News 20 at 5.
Welcome back to News 20 at 5. I'm Quentin G with your sports. With the tragic events that took place on Florida State University's campus early Thursday morning, there were definitely some raw, somber emotions from FSU sports teams. And heading into FSU's home game against Boston College University, head coach Jimbo Fisher says an event like this outweighs a football game. But he talked about what role sports can play in tough situations like this, even comparing it to 9/11.
I think getting back to the sports world kind of made, it's not forget, but kind of put things back in perspective and give some people to relax and get their mind off of it for maybe a little while. And I think that's very important. And I think that's one of the great qualities that sports does have. It unites a community. Tragic situations do, and they're very united. But I think also sports does in a positive way a lot of times.
And FSU's women's basketball team will be on the road in North Texas. But the Lady Noles are participating in the Hospitality Hill Challenge, taking on Eastern Illinois University. And after the tragic events on campus, the team says it really makes you appreciate life.
I think definitely it all puts things in perspective, and you never know, what is going to hold, what the day is going to hold. And certainly, I just want to commend the campus police at Florida State for the way they handled this incident.
Getting back on the gridiron, Florida A&M University's football team is in Orlando for the Florida Blue Florida Classic. And earlier this week, the Rattlers received a visit from legendary head coach Bobby Bowden. Bowden, of course, coached the Seminoles for 33 years, and he's the winningest head coach in major college football. But Bowden's success wasn't immediate. In his first season as head coach, he went 5-6, but he says that year laid the foundation for FSU football. And Coach Bowden challenged the guys to do the same thing by getting a win in the Classic. Bowden also thinks his former player, Corey Filler, who's FAMU's interim head coach, will make a good head coach.
Do I think he could? Yes, I really do. He's got a lot of leadership qualities. He's got a lot of character qualities, and he don't put up with much foolishness. I think he'd be a very good one.
And as far as the Classic goes, interim head coach Corey Filler says he has more than enough confidence to put the game in the hands of his quarterback, Damian Fleming. And Fleming, who's just 509 yards shy of being FAMU's all-time leading passer. But his concern is getting a win, especially since he was sidelined with an injury in last year's Florida Classic. But on to the high school football gridiron. With 14 local teams left in the playoffs, we gear up for the second round of high school football. But we're focusing on 3 Tallahassee schools. Godby will take on West Florida at Gene Cox Stadium. And Florida High will take on Madison County at Madison County. And North Florida Christian has an away game against University Christian. But now on to college hoops. The women's basketball team at Florida A&M University was in action yesterday, picking up their first win of the season, taking down Weber International 52-41. The team is now 1-2 on the season. Well, that's it for your sports. I'm Quentin G. Back to you at the desk, Donovan.
Thanks, Quentin. Next up on News 20 at 5, Tallahassee Community College has big changes for the upcoming year. Find out more after the break. Stay tuned. You're watching News 20 at 5. Starting early next year, Tallahassee Community College will begin construction on their new facility in Quincy. The groundbreaking ceremony was held earlier this week for the new 4,700 square foot facility. The new facility will be tailored to house youth and GED preparation courses. Well, that's going to do it for us this afternoon. For Brittany Collins and Quentin G., I'm Donovan Long. Thanks for watching, and remember to log on to the FAMUonline.com for more news updates. Have a great afternoon.